Good afternoon. So, while I uh, sit and contemplate how I'm going to continue forward with Dark Age of Man, as far as writing the Prisoners piece of the book, and the random seat generation, and how naive narrator seat for the GM. I mean, a lot of this conversation that I've had publicly, and a lot of this conversation I've had privately, a lot of these videos that I share, it's my way of working through the language that I need to refine before I put it in the book, before I write it. So I'm sharing much of this conversation, and much of the feedback comes in, and between Dell and I, and viewers, and just the idea of talking through it helps me realize how best do I want to say this in the book, and can I communicate this effectively in writing once I get it done? So this is part of the fun of sharing these videos. But also I want to talk about Sword and Wizardry Continual Light and how much I miss it. This is Sword and Wizardry Continual Light. When I found it, I can't remember how long ago. It was almost like someone had dipped into the mind dipped into my past. When I was 10, 11, 12, 13, and I was running Moldvay a particular way. I was running Moldvay Sans, all procedures and most rules, and that would be Sword and Wizardry. Just like somebody went back into my brain when I was a kid and how I used to run D&D and said, why don't we just strip all that stuff away and write that rule book? And that was very much Sword and Wizardry Continual Light for me, as the D20 version of super simple, super clean D&D. Without any gimmicks. I mean, this is the other thing. The problem I have with hacks, and again, pardon me for those who like hacks, because I don't dislike hacks, but hacks to me always seem to gimmickize. They seem to make novelty of ideas. So they create a rule that becomes a neat novelty, but it's not D&D. It's not the thing that I'm trying to achieve. But this video is not about hacks or about great little rules and things that make interesting design choices, because there are a lot of great hacks that have very cool design choices and very cool pieces. It's really a reflection back on missing my OSR, especially Sword and Wizardry Continual Light. I was running this a lot with my local guys in the Broadland campaign books, the Hex Crawl, the Open World Sandbox Hex Crawl campaign book that I had written. And I just, reflecting back, I desperately miss this kind of simple D&D right here. But at the same time, I wanted to talk a little bit about rules and mechanics, and I guess where Dark Age of Man is trying to put the onus on the dice rolls. Okay, so what we want players to do is declare the action. It's true. I am kicking the door in. We're not rolling to see if you're allowed to kick the door in. We're not asking if you can kick the door in. We're saying, you've kicked the door. You're kicking the door. Let's roll to see what transpires from that action. We're rolling for the result of what you say you're doing. And I think a lot of games, mechanically, this is, I think, one of the things that probably isn't obvious with crunchier games or more complex games. You have to activate a particular mechanic through jargon or talk, or you have to actually activate the action through the mechanic of the complexity, right? I want to cast sleep. Some games are going to say, ooh, okay, well, you don't cast sleep until you make the die roll. You need to make the skill check, then you cast sleep, right? What was great about D&D was I cast sleep. You never rolled to cast sleep. You casted it. You cast it. And then everybody else has to make a check against the save, etc., the target, etc. So you declared it, and therefore it was, and then you rolled to see how it affected the world around you, the results of that, right? Same with attacking the goblin. You don't roll to attack the goblin. You are attacking the goblin. You roll to see if you actually affect it. You actually affect harm upon the goblin. You are attacking the goblin. You are forcing it to move. You are forcing it to defend itself. You are kicking it. You are cutting it. You are beating it. Whatever. And then you just roll to see how much that action adversely affected their hit point bubble, right? Their abstraction. This is D20. This is simple. You declare it. We roll to see what the result is. You don't actually say, I want to do a thing, and say, well, to drive the car, Jason, you got to make a skill check. We're not actually rolling dice to preempt the action. We're actually doing the action, and we roll the dice to see what the result of the action. So one of the things I'm talking about when I talk about simple, easy, smooth gaming, I don't want the mechanics to interrupt or declare to me whether I'm even allowed to do it, right? And I don't, again, I'm not going to get into details here as to what games are played that way or activate that way because, again, in many ways, they share a very similar process. Some games, though, are telling you, some mechanics are telling you, not yet, don't jump the gun. You need to roll these dice to prove that you do it. Then we'll see how it affects play. Right? And so there's a big difference in how I want players live, active in the game, and not worried about whether they can do the thing or whether they need to make the die roll before they do the thing. When Joe says to me, I'm hiding in shadows, there's no question you are hiding in shadows. Joe says I am. I'm assuming he's a thief and a competent thief, even at level 1. He knows where the shadows are at. He ain't stupid. He's a thief, right? What we're rolling to see is if they spot you hiding in shadows. You are hiding in shadows, but are you hiding effectively? Well, it doesn't. We're not rolling to see if you're even effective at it. We're rolling to see if others can spot you or if you're as good at it as you think you are. I'm juggling 2 oranges. Now I'm going to add a 3rd orange, and it looks pretty smooth and simple, right? I think it does, but I'm not watching me juggle, right? But the guy across the bar is going to do that. It's the worst juggler I've ever seen. Look how he juggles 3 oranges. I'm juggling oranges, but unfortunately, it's not as pretty as I think it is, right? So this is one of the things I talk about when I talk about easy entry gaming, right? Easy entry play, simple gaming, simple entry play, right? Character players are characters. They're acting, they're declaring, they're doing. We're not rolling to see if you can light a fire. Go ahead and light the fire. Let's roll to see whether it's a pittance or whether you've got a nice blaze going that'll warm your bones, right? And so this is one of the reasons Fell Forward became popular mechanic, because the pass fail dice mechanic was so tied to no, you're not building a fire. Wait a second, why? It should have always been in D&D. Of course you're setting a fire. The question is the fire competent? Is it good enough? Right? So I think Fell Forward became this thing, this terminology, in response to GMs who would say, roll the die, and then the failure was just straight, no, of course not. Of course you're not drawing your sword. You've utterly failed at drawing your sword. Well, that's just crazy talk, right? It pulls players instantly out of the narrative frame of mind. It pulls players out of the live frame of mind. The minute you stop them and say, no, you didn't, or the minute you say, and I don't say you let players have things, we reanalyze how they enter into the die roll, and the die roll becomes the effect of the thing they've said they're doing, not whether they can do the thing, right? And I think this is easily handled in Holmes D&D, Moldvay D&D, Old D&D, New D&D, OSRs. Some games, this is an easy fix. Just it's the change in terminology, it's the change in your thought process. It's not a change in the mechanics, it's not a change in the rules. Some games, though, halt you dead and say, but do you have the skill to build a fire? Then don't declare you're building a fire. We have an arrest. I won't say an aesthetic arrest. That's a different concept. That's an art visual concept. But we have this narrative arrest. We have this imaginative arrest that occurs when it's wait, whoa, Jason, back up, buddy, back up. You can't drive the car, right? Whoa, back up, buddy, You can't scan the planet just yet. Whoa, back up, buddy. You can't just do that without activating this thing, right? Meanwhile, my argument to those games is it the game system or is it the facilitation by the GM? I've always played to a facilitated game to make it as easy as possible for players to keep playing without thinking about the rules. So I've always prided myself on, no matter how difficult the game, when a player declares what they're doing, I find a way to facilitate that on their behalf. I still will demand a die roll, will still demand we follow the rules, but I facilitate that in such a way that it's not a reset of our entire narrative place. It's not a reset of their imagination. It's not a reset of the place we're trying to get players to be in these games, even OSRs, even old D&D, even Sword and Wizardry, Continual Light. So I just wanted to share that because it's not just that the game's simple. It's not just is it a single roll system. It's not just that it's a simple entry game. It's that we also are saying we're not ever rolling to see if you do the action you say you're doing. We're rolling to see the quality of the action you just said you did. You kick the door in. Well, did you kick it completely in? Did you kick it off the hinges? Or did you just barely get it open? You know, what, right? We're not rolling to see if you're capable of kicking the door in. We're rolling to see how well you kick the door in. We're not rolling to see if you attack the bandit. We're rolling to see how effective the attack upon the bandit was, or vice versa, right? Especially in our game, where if you fail, that means the bandit basically countered your attack and caused you injury, right? So I just think these are interesting concepts to think about, especially for me. And again, remember, not many of these videos aren't necessarily meant to say play your games different or whatever. I'm going through the process in my head of how Dark Age of Man needs to be written and constantly reinforce a particular attitude about how you play our game, not just what the rules say literally, not just how the dice achieve pass-fail, but how the players should be in a situation where it's not a question of what they say isn't true. It's a question of, well, how effective is what they say they do, right? And so I need to think about that as I write the book, and when I reiterate rules, or when I touch base back on the concepts of how we want the GM to be in a certain seat and the player to be in a certain seat. We want the GM in the naive narrator seat, not knowing all the answers, versus the player being in the driver's seat, actually able to fill in some details of what he sees around town, and that he's accustomed every morning to walking to the blacksmith, to light his pipe because he happens to like the blacksmith, and that's his morning routine. Okay, so we know that. Now I roll on a random seed chart, bandits. Well, guess what? I'm going to drop those bandits on the blacksmith. So this morning, when you walk up there to light your pipe and talk to the blacksmith, you find he's being waylaid by bandits, right? I put the random seed on the thing you claimed you do every morning. Right? So now you're invested as a character. Dude, I just told you I like the blacksmith. I like to chill with the blacksmith. I like to light my pipe every morning and talk to the blacksmith. Now you've dumped bandits on his head. Right? You're now invested, right? You're fully invested in your character because it's what you told me you do. Now I just put I put the challenge in front of your character to act upon that, right? So I think these are fascinating things as we move forward with writing of it, and also just the conversation in general about how complex games or how non-complex games. I mean, you can have a very simple game that says, no, you must roll before you're allowed to declare you're driving. You must roll before you declare you open the door. Some games will preempt the actual declaration with the proof of it. We're saying what you say counts. Now we're going to roll to see what it means, right? What's the result of the thing? So, okay, thanks for listening. Good day.